Hello YouTubers, Alaska Prepper here. So today I'm going to teach you guys how to make a loaf of bread for pennies. Okay, first of all, let me go through the very first step here, and then we'll have a chat about the ingredients and about how much it's going to cost before we carry on, because this step here takes a couple of minutes. So you're going to need a cup and a half of warm water. All right, if you have a thermometer and you can measure the heat, you want to keep it around between 100 and 110 degrees. All right, if you don't, because you're experienced with it, I usually just stick my finger in it and I know that it's good. So, and the reason you want to keep your water around 110 degrees, definitely not above 120, all right, is because you don't want it to kill the yeast that you're going to be putting in there. Okay, so I'm going to show you guys how to make bread today with one arm, all right, or with an arm and a half. That way no one really has an excuse as to say that they can't do it themselves. Anyone can make this recipe. It's so easy, ladies and gentlemen. And when we go over the what it'll cost you, hopefully you'll be encouraged to try it, because it's extremely inexpensive and very good for you. So let's start off with a cup and a half of water. We're going to go ahead and add 1.5 tablespoons of yeast. Okay, so 1.5. Okay, once we've got that 1.5 tablespoons of yeast in there, we're going to add a tablespoon of sugar. Okay, and that's what this is right here, sugar. Then we're going to go ahead and grab, let me go ahead and grab a fork real quick. I forgot to grab one. I'm going to grab a fork. I'm just going to stir this around vigorously. Okay, stir it around vigorously. Okay, and that's that. And what you'll do is you're going to set this aside. All right, it's going to take about between 5-10 minutes at the most for that yeast to come back to life, and that's what I call it, coming back to life. Okay, and you'll be able to notice that when you'll see bubbles on the top, and that's the yeast starting to form their own gases. All right, so you'll be able to see that. So we'll put that to the side here for a second, or for a few minutes, while we go over our ingredients list. So what are you going to need for this? So what I'm making here is I'm making 1 loaf of bread, and it's going to be the healthy version. Okay, and I'm calling it a loaf of bread for pennies. Why? Because literally, if you measure out the ingredients that I have here and you get a dollar value for it, for example, this is 3 cups of flour. I've got a half a cup of oats, just regular oats. You saw that we used a tablespoon of sugar. We used a tablespoon and a half of yeast. You don't have to add this to it, but I'm going to. I'm going to add a tablespoon of flaxseed, all right, of ground flaxseed. And we're going to add a little bit of salt, a teaspoon. And then a couple tablespoons or so of oil. That, ladies and gentlemen, is what it takes to make this loaf of bread. So if you're looking at 3 cups of flour, I remember buying the 5-pound bag of flour that I got this flour from on sale for $1.29, I think it was. And that was actually one of my payday preps a while back. So I still have some of that flour. So I paid about $1.29 for a 5-pound bag of flour. Let's say that this is about a quarter of that. Okay, 3 cups. Let's say that's about a quarter of that bag. So we're looking at about 30 cents, 30 or 35 cents worth of flour. The oats, literally pennies. I mean, probably, maybe, this is maybe about 2 cents worth of oats. Okay, so you're going to put your oats in there. You're going to go ahead and put in 1 teaspoon of salt. Okay, I'm using sea salt. You can put a little bit more according to your taste, but I find that 1 teaspoon is enough. Going to end up putting in there a tablespoon of flaxseed. Okay, you can put more in there also if you like, but a tablespoon should be enough. It's enough for you to get whatever vitamins this offers, and it's got omega-3 fatty acids and things like that. Okay, so if you want to put this, you can. It's optional. You don't have to do this. You don't have to put that in there. All right, so now, ladies and gentlemen, let me go ahead and knock this out first before I continue. Just from the experience of reading past comments, when I say that I'm making a loaf of bread for pennies, I can see some people saying, how in the world are you going to make a loaf of bread for pennies? A 5-pound bag of flour by itself is X number of dollars, or this. I'm talking about the actual ingredients I'm using. I ran into this with lots of comments like this on the video where I made the spaghetti, and people were saying there's no way that you can make a spaghetti dinner like that for under $5 because of this and this and that. Of course, that when you go buy salt, you're not going to go buy 1 penny's worth of salt. But that's about what you're using. It's about a penny's worth of salt when you take a teaspoon out of this. Okay? So that's about what you're using, about a penny's worth, maybe 2 pennies worth. The flour ends up being about 30-40 cents at the most. The sugar, you're not going to go buy 3 cents worth of sugar, right? I bought a 25-pound bag for $13 and I used 1 tablespoon out of it. Of course, if you go buy everything in bulk, if you buy all your ingredients in bulk, it's going to be more than $1 to make a loaf of bread. But please realize that what I'm saying here is that this loaf of bread, the ingredients included in this loaf of bread, comes out to less than $1. I would say that it comes out to probably around 50 to 60 cents if you make it yourself. And not only that, ladies and gentlemen, much better tasting, much better for you. Okay? And if you've never made your own bread, please do it. This is all you need right here. All right? You need a bowl. You're going to need a bread pan, okay? And even if you don't have a bread pan, you can still make bread just by putting it on a pan in the oven, right? An oven pan. So don't make any excuses as to why you can't make it. Try to figure out a way to be able to make it, because for 60 cents, you can have a loaf of bread that'll feed your family, and it'll actually be nutritious bread. All right, it's good for you, instead of the junk that you buy at the store for $3.89. So what we're doing now is we're just going to mix this together with the fork. And I like a fork because it allows me to mix my dough together once I get my wet ingredients. And I can just use this. So look, this is all we're dirtying today. We're dirtying a measuring cup and a bowl. That's how we're going to make our dough. Right? And then later on, of course, we're going to need a bread pan, something to cook it in. Right? So you don't have to make an excuse and say, well, I don't have a KitchenAid. You know, I don't have this, I don't have that. Everyone, I'm sure, has a fork, a bowl of some kind, and a measuring cup. All right? You can get a measuring cup at the dollar store. Okay? And I'm pretty sure you can get a large bowl at the dollar store, even though we don't really have dollar stores up here where I live. Okay, so, and the reason I'm saying that is because I've realized and I've noticed that there's a lot of comments where people make excuses of why they can't do this or why they can't do that. All right, you don't have to make excuses. You can do this. If I can do this, then you can do this. I'm doing it with one hand. All right, here's my hand in my sling. I'm doing it with one arm. I'm going to try to see if I can hold this bowl with one hand, but I've got a little Miss Alaska prepper over there that's going to come and help me if I need help. Okay, so here we go. We got everything mixed in, and guess what, ladies and gentlemen? So I figured out a way to splice videos. So I'm going to be able to make this part and put it on hold and then come back and show you all in one whole video from start to finish, instead of me trying to make 4 or 5 different parts. Okay, so this is ready to go. Check out, I hope you can see this, but if you can see, there's little bubbles up there starting to form. So this is good. So now all we got to do, all right, is put this water in here. And I always save a little bit of water just in case. That way I don't use too much, okay? So we'll put this water in here, most of it. And don't be afraid thinking that it might be too much water. All right, it might look like it's too much water, but it's probably not. Okay, so, and all you have to do, ladies and gentlemen, look at this. This is how easy it is to make a nutritious loaf of bread. It's not difficult. And like I said, you're going to make this for less than $1. Okay? Easily for less than $1. I would contest that you can make 2 loaves of bread. Like if you didn't use the flaxseed and you didn't use the oats and it was just flour, you can make 2 loaves for $1. Depending on if you capitalize on sales, like if they're having a sale on flour and things like that. So that's why I say whenever you walk into a store, if you're not looking for something but it happens to be on sale, and you know that you're going to use it later on, go ahead and pick some up. Okay, so as you can see, it's still a little dry, so I'm going to add a little more. And for those of you that may not like oats, the reason I put the oats in here is it's going to give it more fiber, right? And you're really not going to be able to taste those oats. It's really in there to make it healthier for you so that it can have more fiber. So there you go. Look at that. That looks pretty good. I'm not going to add any more of the liquid to that. I'm going to keep this, and I want to tell you a little something about this. All right. So let's say you're running out of yeast and you don't have the ability to get any more. You see this little bit of water here that's got that yeast in it still? I can add a little bit more warm water in here and just a little bit of flour, and this will actually continue to grow. The bacteria that's within the yeast will actually continue to grow, and you can use half of the solution for the next time you make a batch of bread and not have to take out any new yeast. All right. I'm not sure if they call it a mother, but I think I've also heard it called a proof. All right, where you just keep feeding this, leave it on your countertop at room temperature, feed it a little bit of clean water, all right, with a little bit of flour, and maybe put in a pinch of sugar now and then so that the yeast will stay alive. And if you're not looking to make any new dough for bread or whatever, then you can always take it and put it in the fridge, in the refrigerator, and the bacteria in there, the yeast, will go dormant. And then you can bring it out next time you need to use it. So this is the one and only time, if you take care of this, this will last you forever, literally, unless you allow the yeast in there to die. You can actually keep feeding this and it will last you forever. All right, so that's a good way to save money too. If you can make your own mother or your own proof and just keep it alive by adding a little bit of clean water in there, and by adding a little bit of sugar and flour every once in a while to keep that bacteria growing. And one thing that you want to remember too, ladies and gentlemen, the water that you use to make the solution, the yeast and water and sugar solution, in my opinion, is preferable if you use water that's pure water, meaning not chlorinated water that came out of your tap. The water that I use for this comes out of my reverse osmosis system, and that water is pretty pure. There's almost nothing in it. The reason with the chlorinated water is that the chlorine acts as a death squad for the bacteria. So the chlorine in there actually is not good for the bacteria. So what I'm doing now is I'm just grabbing a little bit of flour for my hand. I'm going to get this off of here. All right, let me go ahead and put this in the sink. And now I'm going to get a little bit of flour right in my hand. I'm going to sprinkle it. Now, right in the bowl, right in your bowl, you're just going to work this, right? If it's a little bit sticky, it's okay. Don't be afraid. Right? You can scrape off the sides of the bowl. All right? And what you're going to do is you're going to knead this, just like I'm doing right here. You're going to knead it. All right? You're going to press down, bring it about 180 degrees or 90 degrees. Press down. You're going to keep doing this. If it gets extremely sticky, you can go ahead and put just a little more flour on it. Like I usually keep my bowl here and I just dip my hand in here, sprinkle it on top. All right, and then I just keep kneading. And what you want to do, ladies and gentlemen, is first of all, don't be in a hurry. Okay, because if you're in a hurry, it's not going to come out good. All right, you're going to want to knead this for about 10 minutes. Okay, and once we have this kneaded, then I'll show you what I'm going to do Oh, just a second. Let me see. I'm hoping that my camera here didn't. Okay. All right. I was thinking that my camera stopped. So. Okay. There we go. So once we've got this kneaded, I'll show you, just in case some of you didn't catch my last one, I'll show you what I do to proof it, because like I said in one of my previous videos, where I'm at here, it stays a little bit chilly inside the house. Our house temperature averages anywhere between 66 degrees to like 68, and anything hotter than that is too hot for us. It's not necessarily because we're trying to save on energy, save money on energy, but it's just because it's too hot for us. We prefer the house to be a little less hot in the winter, because that our comfort level, right? It's not to save money, it's for comfort level. So it's kind of difficult to proof the dough when it's only in the 60s in the house, right? It doesn't give the yeast in there the opportunity to flourish. It keeps them from multiplying, okay? Normally, bacteria multiplies at about, they usually double about every 20 minutes. Okay, that's why when you proof your bread, you're looking to proof it anywhere between half an hour to an hour, or until it doubles in size. But that's going to depend on the temperature that you have where you're proofing it. Now, just from past experience and from what I've heard, you want to keep a temperature of about 100 degrees when you're proofing your dough. Okay, that way it'll, double in size in about 20-30 minutes, or even an hour. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the longer that you allow the dough to proof, actually the better. It'll create more gluten. All right, gluten is what makes the bread stretchy. It's what gives it that elasticity. So the longer you allow it to proof, excuse me, the more flavors that are going to come out of that flour. Okay, so the longest thing about making bread is, what takes the longest is actually just allowing it to sit. So you don't really spend a lot of time doing this stuff. You're just spending a few minutes in each step and then allowing it to sit. Okay, so look at that. You don't even have to get your counter dirty. Oh, excuse me. You don't even have to get your counter dirty. Just go in there and you knead it. And ladies and gentlemen, like I was saying before about excuses, don't make excuses. This is something that anyone can do. I mean, you can do this. If you've never done it, give it a try. And once you're comfortable with doing it, teach one of your kids how to do it. All right? Little Miss Alaska Prepper knows what goes into bread. She knows how to make rice. All right? Why am I doing it then if she knows how to do it? Why? Because I love to do this. I love baking. I love cooking. Everyone has a niche in life, and in life, everyone, if you're lucky enough to find something that you really enjoy doing, and this is one of the things that I really love to do. So this here brings me tranquility, and it brings me peace, inner peace. So it's something that I really enjoy to do. But if you don't enjoy doing it, and you want to save money, this is something that you can have, or this is something that you can teach your kids how to do. And say, hey, Johnny and Amy, when you guys get home from school every day, I'm going to want you to make a loaf of bread. Or at least make the dough. So that in the morning we can stick it in the oven and have a fresh loaf of bread every day. Depending on how many people in your family, of course. But it's something that your kids can do. You can make this part of their chores. And not only is that a good thing that they're helping out, but it's teaching them how to provide for themselves. It's teaching them how to make something for themselves that they'll be able to use later on in life. Now, you see my dough there? I can't pick that up. Sorry. See my dough there? I'm going to press down on it, and you can see it spring back up. All right? You want to see it spring back up. That means that it's good to go. I've kneaded this enough. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put this to the side. I'm going to put some oil in here. And ladies and gentlemen, if you want to put oil in the mix, you can. All right? You don't have to for your bread. You don't have to. I like to put it in there when I make the pizza, all right, because it gives that outside of the crust. It makes it a little crustier. You don't have to for your bread, but you can. It's not going to hurt anything if you do. So now that I've got everything in there nice and moist with oil, what I'm going to do now is, which I'm going to do it off camera because my hands are dirty, is I'm going to take this, I'm going to put some plexi wrap around this, okay? If you can see my crock pot right here, this is how I'm going to proof my dough. I'm going to put about an inch worth of water in the crock pot. I'm going to put it on warm. I'm going to put it on the setting, keep warm, and I'm going to put this bowl on top of it. That's going to allow this dough to maintain a temperature of about 100 degrees. All right? And it's going to take about an hour or so, maybe a little less, for it to double in size. And when it doubles in size, I'm going to bring you guys back to show you what we do next. Okay, so hang in there. It'll be about an hour for me, but it should only be about 1 or 2 seconds for you. All right, so just hang in there. We'll see you in a few. Hello, YouTubers. I am back. So it's been about an hour, hour and a half since I set this dough out to proof. I'm going to show you all what it looks like. So here it is. It's about doubled in size. Okay. So doing this quickly, this is really the last step that we're going to have to do here before we get it to cooking. So now all I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and knead this for just about a minute or so. Don't have to be for a long time. And we're not even going to get our counter dirty because I'm going to be able, since I'm only making one loaf, I'm going to be able to shape this right in here. Okay. So you see that, ladies and gentlemen? See that? It's kind of like shaped almost into a shape of a loaf bit. All we need to do is that right there. Okay. I've got a bread pan ready. All right. This is not a real deep bread pan, but I've been using this for years. Okay. All we do now is we just take this, just like this. We put it in here. And let me get this bowl out of the way so you guys can see. We just put that in here and we just work it. No, don't have to work it a lot. As you can see, I'm only doing it with one hand. Work it till it's about even, all right? It's not going to hurt anything if one side is a little lopsided or not. It's going to be just fine, all right? But you want to work it until, oops, sorry about that. I wasn't letting you guys see. All right, work it till it's about even around the corners. And this bread pan, you want to make sure that you either spray it with grease or put some butter on it or something like that so that the bread won't stick. Okay, so there you go. Take a look at that. Okay, now I am going to try something that I've never tried before, and I'm going to tell you what. Give me a second. Let me rinse off my hands real quick. Okay, so I was watching, I forgot where I saw this. I think it was in a video somewhere. But I was watching where you can actually cook your bread in a crock pot. And the instructions were to put it on low, place your dough in there. It's going to take about 3 hours for this bread to cook, right? So if you don't have the time to put this in a crock pot for 3 hours and you want to cook it in about 35-40 minutes, you're going to place this in an oven at about 350-360 degrees for about 35-40 minutes, all right? Or until the top is nice and golden brown. And when you take it out of the oven, you're going to go ahead and tap on it and you're going to listen to it. It should sound hollow. The best way to do it is to take the bread out of the pan, tap the bottom of the bread, and it should sound nice and hollow. If it doesn't sound hollow, you need to put it back and put it back in the oven for a few more minutes. Okay? Depending on what kind of oven you have, depending on the altitude that you're at, all figures in on how long you should be cooking your dough for, so it can turn into a nice soft bread. Okay, before I put this in there though, what I'm going to do is this. I've got a cup here where I melted about, I don't know, I would say maybe 2 tabs of butter. You can see in there, it's not a lot, but you'll see me pour it on top. I'm going to pour it on top of this. And ladies and gentlemen, that is going to be really good. And it's not a lot of butter. It might look like a lot, but when butter melts, it really spreads out a lot. So I went ahead and put that in there. Now this crock pot has about a 1/2 inch of water in it. We're going to leave that water in there, okay? And that's going to help to keep it nice and moist and won't let it dry out. All right, so I turned this on low. I'm going to put my pan in there. Before I put my bread pan in there, I'm going to put some rings in there. Let me go grab them so you can see. Just some mason jar rings. I'm going to put some mason jar rings in here so that the bottom of this bread pan doesn't touch the bottom of the crock pot. And it looks like 3 will do the trick. Okay, I'm going to take this and I'm going to put it in there. Alright, I'm going to put my lid on there and we're going to leave it on there for about 2 or 3 hours, and I will be back when it's cooked to show you guys what it looks like. Okay, so hopefully this will work because I've never tried this before. I've just heard of it and I seen it once. I forgot what video it was in, but I seen it once before. So put it on low or medium if you have a medium setting, and leave it alone for a few hours. You should be able to see it as it's progressing, as the cooking is progressing, and you should see it rising, and it'll take a while. But if you don't have the time, like I said, 350, 360 degrees for anywhere between 30 to 40 minutes should give you good results. Okay, so we will be back when that's done, and hopefully it'll be some nice bread. I'll be able to cut into it. Oh, and by the way, ladies and gentlemen, the butter that I used to put on there is the butter that I made a few videos back. All right, so if you're new here and you want to learn how to make your own butter from scratch, go a few videos back and you'll see that I have a video on how you can make butter from scratch. Okay, all right, so we'll see you in a few hours, ladies and gentlemen. For me, it'll be a few hours. For you, it'll only be a few seconds. So we'll see you here in a little bit. Hey, hello YouTubers. Well, I'm back. It's been about 3 hours and 15 minutes since I put this in here. I'm going to turn it off now, and I can tell it's done just by looking inside. But you guys will see what it looks like here in a second. And I think you're going to be pretty impressed how it came out. Looks pretty good. Give me a second. Alright, so obviously, even though there's a crock pot, it's going to be really hot in there, so make sure you have something to protect your hands. Let's see. You guys see this? Actually looks pretty nice. Preferably, you're going to want to put this on a rack and let it rest for a little bit. And it came right out. Let that rest for a little bit so that it can cool off. But I'm not going to keep you guys too long because I know this video is already going on half hour. I'm going to cut it up so you guys can see what it looks like inside. So let's see. So what I ended up doing about halfway through at about 2 hours, I went in there and I dumped out whatever little bit of water that was left inside. Okay, so you may want to remember to do that. The reason I did that was so that this wouldn't get saturated with too much moisture. But can you hear that? Okay, so we're going to cut this up real quick. Let's see how it looks. And it's got a nice crust on it too. I'm going to show you guys. Ooh, that is steaming hot. Whew. Should have probably gotten my cutting board instead. But here, let me show you all. Not sure if I'll be able to hold it. You see that? That came out pretty good actually. Here's a nice piece right there. See that? And all you have to do was put this in the crock here for, this one took about 3.5 hours. I'm going to go ahead and taste it. This is the butter that I made that last time. You can see we're almost out of it. I'll put a little bit on here. Let's see. Thumbs up. This much better than anything you're going to buy at the store. And this right here costs about 50-55 cents to make. All right, plus your time. So you don't have an excuse as to why you can't make your own bread and save a lot of money instead of buying that stuff that you buy at the store. Okay. Now I will tell you it's a little bit dense, but it's really good. It's not hard or anything like that. It's really nice and chewy. And if you let it rise a little bit longer before you put it in the crock oven or crock pot, then it'll be a little bit taller. But this is really, really good. I think you'll enjoy it if you try to make this. Really good. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, there you go. How to make a loaf of bread for pennies. Alright, hope you tried it. If you try it, let me know how you like it. I think if you follow this recipe the same way I did it, you'll really like the taste, because it tastes really, really good. It's got a lot of substance. Alright, and I think this is pretty healthy for you, being that it's got the oats in there and the flaxseed in there. Alright, everything that's in here, we know what went in here, unlike the stuff you buy at the store. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed this and you got something out of it. Like I said, if you end up trying this, let us know how you like it. That way it'll encourage other people to do the same thing. So having said that, remember to be good to each other. When good people do good things happen. Remember to reach one, teach one, and repeat. If we all did this, the world would be a better place. And you know that it will be a better place. Many blessings to all of you and your families. This is Alaska Prepper, and I'm out.